Today, there's news concerning the Supreme Court as Justice Clarence Thomas has issued a response to Donald Trump's request to authorize the special master to examine the documents confiscated by the FBI. Additionally, an update has been provided on the arrest of a CEO from an election software company in Michigan. Furthermore, we have the latest information on the progress of Florida's hurricane recovery efforts. Lastly, attention is drawn to the media's biased and unsurprising portrayal of Governor DeSantis. On Tuesday, former President Trump took immediate action by submitting an urgent appeal to the Supreme Court. He requested that the special master assigned to his case be granted permission to examine numerous documents that were confiscated from his residence by the FBI. Justice Clarence Thomas has instructed the Department of Justice under the Biden administration to provide a response to Trump's appeal before 5 p.m. on the following Tuesday. As reported by the Western Journal, Trump's emergency appeal argues that the appellate court exceeded its authority by withholding the documents from his legal team. Furthermore, his lawyers contend that any limitations placed on the thorough and transparent review of materials seized from a president's residence undermine public trust in our justice system. It is worth noting that the situation may have progressed beyond this point. I understand that the Supreme Court has shown reluctance in involving itself in politically charged cases. However, when we witness an obviously uncontrolled Department of Justice, DOJ, and FBI conducting an unprecedented raid on a former president's home, orchestrated by a clearly partisan bureaucrat at the National Archives, it becomes a flagrant violation of the separation of powers. In such a scenario, it would be expected that the Supreme Court would step in decisively to halt the entire process rather than engaging in mere arguments over procedural details. The entire process is flawed and should never have been allowed to reach this point. Giving the DOJ until Tuesday to provide a defense for the indefensible seems unlikely to yield anything substantial, apart from more empty rhetoric and attempts to save face. In other news related to Trump, the CEO of Connect, an election software company, has been arrested in Michigan. This arrest is part of an investigation into the possible theft of personal identifying information belonging to election workers in LA County. Furthermore, astonishingly enough, the information that was allegedly stolen was stored on servers located in the People's Republic of China. One can only ponder the potential consequences of such an arrangement. According to RedState.com, LA District Attorney George Gaskin announced he arrest of Eugene U. Eskin, the CEO of Connect. Gaskin asserts that the alleged misconduct had no impact on the vote tallying process and did not alter the election results. However, the hard drives were seized by investigators from the LA District Attorney's Office, which, as Seth Dillon from the Babylon Bee humorously noted, demonstrates that reality is converging with satire in these times. Just a day prior, the New York Times published an article about a small group of election deniers who propagated a conspiracy theory about an American election software company called Connect, claiming it had close ties to the Chinese Communist Party and granted the Chinese government backdoor access to personal data of approximately 2 million poll workers in the United States. The Times promptly dismissed anything that might challenge the narrative that the 2020 election was the most honest, trustworthy, and fraud-free election in history. However, their smug dismissal backfired yet again. Nevertheless, it remains crucial, according to their perspective, to prosecute and censor anyone who dares to question the government-certified truths dispensed by liberal media outlets. The subsequent part could be rephrased as follows, while retaining the main content. Furthermore, it is worth noting that the New York Times, despite their continuous and blatant dishonesty, were the same individuals who insisted that Hunter Biden's laptop was nothing more than Russian disinformation. Let us not overlook the fact that the New York Times has devolved into a disgraceful and repugnant tool for disseminating Democrat-centric misinformation. Nowadays, that is the extent of their purpose. Lastly, there's an update on the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. As of the time of this recording, the death toll stands at a tragic 84 individuals, with 75 of them being in Florida. President Biden visited Florida recently to assess the damage and met with Governor DeSantis. Thankfully, the White House emphasized their commitment to setting aside politics and facilitating coordinated efforts among all levels of government to aid the victims of the storm. The strong coordination between the White House, FEMA, and various government entities has been remarkable, starting even before the storm made landfall. However, it is disheartening that some individuals may not fully appreciate the collaborative and united approach that has been demonstrated throughout this ordeal. They simply cannot resist attempting to politicize natural disasters in their latest absurd and ill-informed endeavor to criticize Governor DeSantis and his response to Hurricane Ian. Leftists have resorted to mocking the white rubber boots he wore while touring the flood-affected areas. Evidently, they fail to realize that these boots, called muck boots, are specifically designed for such situations. It is quite fitting, considering the amount of mudslinging his critics are engaged in. For the record, I personally own 2 pairs of muck boots. However, mine are not white but camo, and I use them for hunting. I must say they are the best boots I've ever had for traversing mud, woods, debris, and even providing protection against snakes. These incidents prove that Florida is definitely not a blue state. So far, only 4 individuals have been arrested for violating anti-looting laws in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. It is possible that Governor DeSantis' earlier statement on looting played a role in keeping the instances of looting relatively low. Here's Governor DeSantis addressing the issue. You have individuals, some arriving by boat, attempting to invade people's homes and steal their belongings. In the state of Florida, you never know what may be lurking behind someone's property. And I wouldn't take that chance if I were you. Being a strong advocate of the Second Amendment, I appreciate the signs displayed everywhere that clearly state, "You loot, we shoot." It is disheartening to learn that 3 out of the 4 apprehended looters are reportedly illegal immigrants. Naturally, I am extremely displeased about this. There is no sugarcoating what should be done with these criminals. It is fair to say that Joe Biden's apparent leniency and open-door policy at the southern border have contributed to the presence of these individuals in our country. Once again, Governor Ron DeSantis emphasizes the urgency of addressing the issue of individuals illegally present in our country, particularly when they engage in looting and destruction in the aftermath of a natural disaster. These individuals should face prosecution, but it is imperative that they are repatriated to their home country. They have no place being here whatsoever. Amen and amen, as we would say. Interestingly, if the liberal politicians in blue sanctuary cities like D.C. and New York City do not appreciate Florida sending them illegal immigrants who are merely seeking employment, perhaps they would be more inclined to welcome the looters. It appears they would fit right in.